Well, here we are on the afternoon of Monday, and the whole weekend has gone by, and many things have happened. And Pat and I are going to dissect the most important ones. Correct, Pat?
Absolutely. Afternoon,
Yep.
Jude. How are you?
Good afternoon to you. I'm not so bad. I don't like the weather, Pat. I should be giving our weather report first, but I don't
But
like the
your
look of this
normal
weather.
report. Uh,
You had thunder yesterday, hadn't you?
yeah, what do you call it? It made me day. I know I was actually doing work and I didn't know that electricity had been knocked off my computer for a while, which was pretty stupid. And well, anyway, I didn't do me any favors when it came to saving the stuff. Put it like that.
As I was saying, you're thinking, you could have been worse. You could have been like that per Undertaker in Strabane, where lightning struck.
Coach coffin makers and coach
Yeah,
builders.
the size of the plumes of smoke, dank smoke, dark smoke.
Apparently, this guy is it William J. Doherty or something? I can't remember exactly.
Something like that.
He had a huge big industry going in both Lifford and Strabane. They were coach builders. They used to make the coaches for the electricity supply board and so on. But their big business was coffin making. What can you say about a lot of coffins?
Well,
is there anything that isn't in bad taste?
I keep looking up when I'm doing my email. I look at the site. Geez, there's another advertisement for coffins or for undertakers. Make it easy for your loved ones. Make it easy for your loved ones. Just give us £40 a month.
It's like those Sunlight fads. I always laugh every time I see them. I always thought it was amazingly funny. The woman comes in from the next door neighbor. Oh, here's your Sunlight policy. It landed in my house by mistake, and you go, if they can't even deliver a letter, you trust them to bury you?
Well, I just worry that they know so much about me that I'm clearly one of the candidates. Anyway, let's get down to business here. There's a fair number of things we could talk about, but I would quite like to just talk briefly about Micheál Martin has been saying that the EU has been very generous in its response to trying to crack this protocol problem. And he's pointed out that they've been, first of all, as we know, they've been given a grace period extended again for these chilled meats. And they're going to allow medicines to flow freely from the UK into Northern Ireland. And they're going to waive the obligation for UK drivers to have a green card, an insurance green card, if they're coming from the UK into the EU or into South of Ireland, for that matter. This appears not really to have, it doesn't seem to have done any improvement in the mood of unionism, because Jeffrey Donaldson is saying that they have complained that the terms of the protocol are splitting the North from the Britain and hitting the pockets of business, and people from Britain are giving up just on exporting or sending stuff to the North here. So it looks like a sort of a dead end, is it? Or
Brandon Lewis and Sir David Frost had an opinion piece in the Irish Times, I think it was Friday, where they said the EU was adopting a theological approach to and they were going for the purity one. But I noticed Simon Coveney responded to that and said it's a strange way to sort of to make friends and build partnership, that they were going on solar runs, the Brits. And he says, by the way, he said the Britain has shown no generosity at all over they just bag one concession after another and then demand more. And he said they are the ones who wanted Brexit. They're the ones who are refusing point blank. No, this 80% thing that they say they can solve in the morning if they do a slush deal. And they said they don't want that. Yet they want the EU to sort of drop their position to accommodate them. No, it's sort of arrogant.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's back to the old cake and eat it thing that they talked about. I mean, they want to get out of the EU, but they don't want to have to suffer the obvious consequences. Like if you leave the EU, that means you're no longer in that market. So then you've got to figure out ways to get around that or deal with that. You can't expect the EU to say, okay, you've left us, but we'll let on you haven't.
The single biggest thing, going for the EU is the single market. It's 500 million people. And if you're in that club, you can share and you can do all sorts of deals and whatever. Now, if you're outside that club, It's like somebody going down to a golf club and saying, by the way, I'm not paying the fees, and I'm not abiding by your dress code, and I'm not playing your by your rules, but I want you to let me do whatever I want, even though I am not a member of your club. It's not going to happen. It's simply not going to. Like if I walk, there's a couple of golf clubs down the road, or any club that you want, and sort of say, I want the benefits of your club, but I don't want to play by your rules. Ain't going to happen.
Well, they're complaining, you see. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and if you're talking about the golf club analogy, the members, the ordinary members of that golf club would be really cheesed off if you could get all the benefits of the golf club without paying. They're paying each year.
That's an excellent point you just made, because I presume that if the Belgians and the French and anybody else, the 27 members, are sitting saying, hey, we're in Britain, what's the point in being this club if Britain can get whatever it wants and there's no price to pay? Sure, we may as well leave and do the same. The big thing is the unity of the EU and the sort of the benefit of membership, the single market, and the customs union. Those are the things that make the EU worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that the EU aren't taking a harder line, because they really cannot afford to make their borders porous in any way, ultimately. So why are they being so nice to the UK? In my opinion, they've been very nice to them. The thing that Jeffrey Donaldson and other unionists complain about is that some suppliers from Britain are giving up on sending supplies to businesses here because of they're facing added checks and therefore added expenses and so on. I wonder how have these businesses, presumably he's thinking about unionists, but let's say whatever they are, have these businesses that aren't been able to get this stuff from Britain anymore because these people in Britain have given up on them, can they get the stuff in the south?
Jude, there's a very good question. I genuinely don't know. I remember I mentioned last week, I can't remember, it was a health and beauty shop, I think, or somewhere about Newry. I'm not certain about that. And the woman said she got two pallets from Britain a month, obviously heavy duty stuff for I think it was a health shop. And she said what it was previous was that she would get one sort of customs document to cover the whole pallet. But now there's something like 160 items on each pallet. She had to get a customs document for each one. She says basically the suppliers at the other end said, we're not going there. This is just too much red tape, too long. It's not worth it. Now, if that is the case, like that, but Jude, that is the outworking of Brexit. That's because it's part of the customs duty. So, but one of the things apparently they can do as an alternative, they can bring stuff in from Europe. Now, the other thing that Jude as well, I heard somebody on RT the other morning saying that if you're bringing stuff in now from outside the EU, over like Amazon, just use Amazon, say getting a book, and it doesn't cost whether it costs £1 or 500 quid, you will pay 20% duty on it. So, but if you're getting it, say, from Germany, so in other words, you'd have to use Amazon Germany now if you want the stuff. But I presume people in Northern Ireland can get stuff from Europe as opposed to Britain.
It's tricky, all right. I suppose at the back of it all is the thing that's worrying Jeffrey and other unionists is this notion of the shaking of the Constitution. Absolutely. That essentially is what's at the heart of it. And to some extent, as I've said before, I have some sympathy with them on that, because I think they're right. I think the economic unity will be a precursor of the more constitutional change.
But you always have to go back to the one sort of template about all this. What do you call her? Theresa May offered them a deal where this protocol was not necessary, and there would have been no Irish dimension to it really at all. And they opposed it, and they backed Boris, and Boris screwed them. And then, Jude, you sort of go to yourself, well, look, wait a minute, you've walked yourselves into this, and and Jude, it wasn't as if they weren't warned; they were told. Now, that says a lot about them, their intelligence, or their political abilities, or whatever. I don't know. I'll let you finish that sentence.
Well,
there's a big question to be asked. If you were told this was going to happen and you actually still went ahead and done it, why are you looking to blame somebody else?
Well, you see, again, it's the old cake and eat it, because the reason they didn't accept Theresa May's deal of all of the UK being sort of part of equivalent, they said, well, that's restricting us. It's the whole point of Brexit is get out.
Right, but hold on, Jude, the unionists supported that as well. Like surely, and they should have said, "Wait a minute, hey, see if they introduce one."
Did they support it? Surely,
yeah.
Theresa May was going to go with that. going to make a speech?
No. They opposed Theresa May's deal. Definitely.
Oh, yes, they did. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I thought you said they agreed with it. Yeah, of course they did. She was about to make a speech, and they had a shepherd's
on a Monday morning accepting, and then she was pulled out of the meeting and said they would bring down her government if she didn't.
These are the people to blame. Jesus,
absolutely.
I'm really surprised that people don't, journalists and so on, don't put that again and again. We have to put up with all this garbage because of something they did. It really is astonishing. Yeah. And I think the EU they're really going to walk themselves into trouble if they keep placating. I'm tempted to use the unions. I'm tempted to use the crocodile analogy, but I won't
yes. No, but Coveney's got it right, Jude. He says they're just bagging concession after concession.
Oh, yeah.
And showing no generosity. And I presume that's going to halt it. Either the protocol is in place or it isn't.
It'll have to be there in some form anyway. Okay, we'll not dwell on that too much longer because it's a pressing subject, and you tend to go around the same circle.
Same circle all the time. Exactly.
Coming back again. Well, whose fault was it originally? Original sin, Brexit.
Yeah.
Who made Brexit possible? The DUP. Right. A rather even more sad than that, unbelievably, is this question of the legacy cases.
Yeah.
And the thing arose, what was it, Friday it was? The judge.
Friday it was, yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk a bit about that, Pat?
Jude, Jude, here I have a major issue. For years, the British have and the British authorities have pointed the fingers non-stop at the IRA as being the bad guys. Fair enough. And you can stand over that. But I have a big question. Why is the British government absolutely going out of its way to ensure that this whole legacy thing is shut down? They want to give amnesties right, left and centre now to British soldiers for their roles here and the security forces. They have dragged out every court case. They've used every bureaucratic means at their disposal, every legal means at their disposal, and every statutory means at their disposal to ensure nationalists who have been victimised by the British state, particularly their security forces, haven't got justice. Their coroner's inquests have been delayed for cancelled and postponed for up to 40 years. Bloody Sunday now, on Friday last, Soldier F. Hey, Jude, let's get down to brass tacks here. If Soldier F if the evidence given to the Savile inquiry is correct, he shot 2 people at close range. That's murder, Jude. And he injured 5 others. One soldier did this on his own during Bloody Sunday. Yet this guy is going to walk away scot-free, and Boris Johnson seems to want to run away from it. Simon Coveney has decided it's a massive mistake if they are going to go down this road. And Jude, if the families, I heard Tony Doherty, whose father was shot dead in Bloody Sunday, I heard him on yesterday. He said he was more realistic, and I think some of the rest of them. They say they're going to fight on. Tony says it looks like it is the end of the road. What can they do? If the British state are now saying these people have got Alzheimer's, or the evidence, the witnesses are dead, or the evidence has disappeared, or whatever, and it's 50 years on, and it's too late, Jude, that has been the trick of the British state to cover their crimes, kick the can down the road, ensure nobody's held accountable. But Jude, remember Mrs. Thatcher's famous one, murder is murder is murder.
Except when it's a British soldier.
Except when it's a British soldier, yeah.
But they to my mind, what's astonishing actually is that we're talking about Soldier F is the one that's being accused of these crimes. What about all the other soldiers? And what about all the other people? Why is just one being? I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't pick them out, but why didn't they pick out the others as well? Why were they not prosecuted?
I don't know. Well, sure. Look, Daniel Higgerty. He was 15. He was shot twice in the head by, I think, Soldier B. I can't remember. They've all.
That's right. That's 6 months.
Yeah, and his cousin Christopher was also, I think, shot that day as well. Jude, and that's just been let go as well. And then there's a wee girl, Magella O'Hare, and remember what do you call him, Aidan McAnespie, walking through British Army, and the soldier said his hands were wet and he slipped, and so on. I can think of those off the top. It's unbelievable. But Jude, and how many? I was trying to think, and I was trying to check out. Boris Johnson seems to be motivated by ensuring that no British Army, know that there's no case to answer by any British Army people. That's his motivation, is to protect them. But yet, Jude, look how many IRA people have spent years upon years in jail. And like this was supposed to be a war in a British city or a British state, but in other words, the forces of the state are immune from charges of murder.
So that's exactly, that's exactly what, as I understand it, that's the law that Boris is trying to formalise now.
Yeah.
He's trying to put in a new law that will say British soldiers cannot be prosecuted for any activities while on duty anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
As far as I know, now maybe I've got that wrong, but I'm sure I read that.
Well, you see, that's very one like the one Trump tried to get through in America too, that American troops are not anything they do when they're on service. In other words, they've got a free hand to murder.
This is the whole thing very distasteful even to talk about. But I think that, to be honest with you, I think the nationalist people and the families of those victims were far too soft when they rejoiced in David Cameron standing up and saying we're sorry. I mean, I just find that outrageous. I mean, somebody kills in broad daylight, soldiers kill 14 people or 13, another one of them died, and nobody's charged for years and years and years. 40 years later, 35 years later, the Prime Minister gets up in the House of Commons and says, "Oh, we are really sorry that happened."
I know the point you're making, and I understand the point you're making, but Jude, it was finally, after whatever it was, 46 years or whatever it was, 45 years, an acknowledgement by the British state that all these people who were shot dead were innocent, that they were not terrorists and gunmen, and that they'd been. That was a massive relief for the families. Wait a minute, our children, and they were mainly children, like a lot of them were 17 and 19, were not gunmen and terrorists, and to be blackened across the world to justify their shooting. The British state accept and said to the world, look, that was a lie, it wasn't the truth, and we apologize. For the families, that was a massive step forward. Now, Jude, in other words, they weren't celebrating the British state, they were celebrating the vindication of their families.
Well, I know that obviously they're it meant a lot to them, and I could see that, but it wouldn't be, I cannot imagine myself being in those circumstances, in their shoes, and feeling good about that. I mean, in terms of vindicating their children.
I think Jude, I don't know if they felt that good about it. What they felt was vindication for, even that day, there were a lot of them saying that's just now just the start of the process. Let's bag this and go on.
Sure. But they were pleased that because I heard people cheering. I mean, this is a guy admitting 40 years later that his soldiers killed people.
Yeah.
I mean, showing that your children are innocent. They knew their children were innocent.
Yeah.
Everybody in Derry knew. Unionist national.
There was a guy called Gilles Perez. There was an Italian whose name escapes me now. They went back to their papers. They were journalists and cameramen, and back and told the world that British soldiers were guilty. And nobody believed the British version. Remember Widgery's apparently what do you call him? Edward Heath said to Widgery, remember, we're not only fighting a war, we're fighting a propaganda war. So that Widgery came with these already with his mind made up. Like he used to arrive at all the hearings in a British Army helicopter. Like that's like bringing your own referee to an international match. That's the way it happened. But hey, it's back to the thing. The core motivation of the British state and Boris Johnson is to protect British Army veterans. It's not to do justice for the nationals. It's not to aid reconciliation. They are more concerned. And Jude, it's seriously wrong that if, as presented in the evidence, Soldier F, just using him as an example, that he can go up and kill 2 people in cold blood, shoot 5 others, and that's okay under the guise of the, let's put it all behind us and let's move forward.
Yeah, I noticed whenever they talk about any of the soldiers, including Soldier F, the newsreader will inevitably remind us that he's now in his 70s or an old man, or even the papers will talk about dragging the veterans out of their.
Jude, can I stop you there 1 second, just because you've said something that hasn't stopped? Wasn't there a guy somewhere in his 90s in America who was a former concentration guard, extradited about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but if you give me 5 minutes, I would.
Yeah, I mean, that's central to the motivation of these Nazi hunters. They say it doesn't matter what age you
what
are.
age you are, you will never sleep comfortably in your bed. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't apply here. I don't know. I think it's hard to know. What would you do, Pat, in their shoes? Would you take the line that man that you mentioned took, where you say, well, it looks like the end of the line for us?
No, I don't. I'm not
putting
words on it. That's Tony Doherty. I'm not putting words in his mouth, and I don't think he wants to give up. He was just despondent. Like, where do we go from here? Yeah. Like, every door's been closed on. Now, I would say Tony will keep on fighting, but there was a sort of realism too. Like, how can you overcome this? The state's closing every door, and they've got all the power.
And it's not just, that they're able to close the door on ordinary people. I mean, Pat Finucane was shot in his own home, having a Sunday family meal.
Yeah.
And they have been fighting and fighting. Half the family are solicitors. And they still haven't.
Naomi Long was on yesterday in the politics program. And basically she said she doesn't accept this, that there should be an amnesty all around. She says, where there is evidence, where there are witnesses, and where the case is ready to go, there should be no question that the law should take its full course. If there's evidence that's there that can prove that somebody has committed a crime, whether they were a uniform or an IRA man or a loyalist or anybody else or an RUC, whatever, she says that the law should take its course. And I think, Jude, if you're going to talk about reconciliation and fairness in all society, a lot of the IRA guys have spent many years in jail. The other participants, the British Security Service, they committed murder and they were involved in what, 2 or 3 other killings. Everybody suggesting that everything they'd done was above board.
Would the families be content, or would you be content if these people were convicted? Say Soldier F, it doesn't look likely, but supposing he was put on trial and convicted, would you be content with him serving a 2-year?
Not at all, no, Dude, no. But I would like to see him at least appear in court and sort of, Jude, the families have lived with trauma for 50 years. I don't have a terrible lot of sympathy if he has to go through the trauma of a trial for what he done.
Absolutely. It's a shocking thing. And I mean, you almost would, in a perverted way, you'd almost admire the Brits for the way they have blocked every avenue. Yeah. I mean, Dublin Monaghan bombings, never explained.
They are the last people that should be lecturing anyone on moral high ground and about principle.
Shameful. The trouble is, you really feel so frustrated because nothing's going to change.
It's just kicking the can down the road until everybody's dead and all the witnesses are gone and the evidence is sort of so confused. People eventually, like even now, if people ask me, Pat, remember 20 years ago, like who was singing that day? Where were we? People start to forget, and one day starts to fuse in with another.
And of course, for Ireland, one of the better prime ministers was Tony Blair. And I don't know if Tony Blair ever addressed anything with regard to the legacy. I mean,
no, I think in fairness, he hung on there getting the deal done for the Good Friday Agreement.
Well, he got it, absolutely.
And by the way, legacy was part of that was to be addressed later on. But I would leave Tony out of this one.
It was on paper, and I mean that was fairly near. Wasn't that fairly near the beginning of his 3 election success?
What was that? Good Friday Agreement? Reasonably well.
I think
he and Bertie Ahern sort of dovetailed, and they did get the deal done, and they did bring the troubles to end, and they did, and then they said that legacy would be an issue too. I'm not an expert in exactly what they said or didn't say. In fairness,
but I'm talking about what they did or didn't do, and I'm saying that they didn't. I hate to say it, but Tony Blair was too busy invading Iraq to be bothered with following.
And going to Afghanistan or anywhere else.
Okay. Right. Let's move to a more positive image of things on this island of ours. The first round of applications for the Shared Island program will open before the end of this year. You know more about this than I do. Go on, hit me with this one. Well, I'll tell you a bit that I'm familiar with. It was in the papers recently. I think it was today even. The Shared Island program is something like 500 million. And the whole idea is to develop, shared island and find ways of people learning about each other, working together, etc., etc. So there's something like 10 million, I think, has been pushed forward. and it's going to be up for academics. For example, 2 individual academics, researchers, based in the Republic in one case and in Northern Ireland in the other case, could receive up to €100,000 per year for up to 2 years, while
Jesus, nice
working on some aspect of the divisions. While larger projects between North-South research teams and institutions, i.e. universities, could get up to €1 million each year for 4 years. So, I mean, that's serious money. I mean, if I'm an individual lecturer or prof, and I'm faced with the prospect of I could get €100,000 for 2 years with some guy up north that I know or down south that I know.
Jude, let me tell you something.
That matters in academia.
Jude, I was involved in the project now, and I'm vested interest here. Myself, a fellow called Colin McKenna, and Paul Gosling. We spent about a year doing Paul was the main researcher by a mile, and he produced a book that, Jude, if you want to put on the floor about what's a United Ireland, what shape it'll take, get Paul Gosling's book. The research is there. It's excellent, and it's been and so on. So, like, Jude, that seems to me very generous. For what are these people, Jude, you can't reinvent the wheel. They have it. Paul Gosling has put the evidence out there. Like, all they can do is update it. But he's done key interviews with various people. He has done the health service. He's done education. He's done all the research. And I know, like, how many angels dancing in the head of the panda. Once the original's there, what else can you do?
Well, there's all sorts of things you could do. I mean, they could, for example, I would have thought that they could explore things like the validity of these judgments on Soldier F and so on.
Yeah.
But my point is that it's going to academic. Why is it directed, or they talk about it in terms of academics? Now, I know Paul Gosling. Is he an academic? He is an academic.
No, Paul is a journalist and he's a former Labour councillor in Birmingham.
Sorry, I thought he maybe worked at McGee. But my view is that the reason that they are asking academics to get into this and offering them money is that academics love money. They love grants because that's the way to progress in your career.
Yeah.
The name of the game is not teaching students in universities. I can know this from experience. Nothing to do with teaching students. It's got to do with bringing money in. If you can bring money into the university, you're a good academic.
You're a star.
Yeah, you're a star. That matters. Yeah. So it gives them a good reputation and it brings in money, and they need money badly.
Yeah.
The only thing is this: academics are forever waffling. They're forever saying, when they bring up the report, on the one hand, on the other hand, and in the round perhaps, and it's always hedged. You never get a clean-cut, sharp report from academics.
No, Jude, I take your point. And if they do the work now, sometimes somebody like Susan McKay there, that book that she did there, quite. I think you might know more about that as well than I do. But that's great research. But it's not academic research, but it's real research. It's about lives of people. What did they call them? A shifting space or something? I remember I read shifting ground. I read her book 20 years ago on the Protestants of Northern Ireland and unsettled people, which was a brilliant book. I learned so much from that. Now, okay, somebody like Susan McKay would be very interesting. Like, I would love to see people like her. But having said that, Jude, I presume we do need some maybe academic work done, and maybe if there's all sorts of reports that, Jude, if it works out and it sort of gives some sort of academic grounding to the road ahead, fair enough. But remember the old one about Garrett Fitzgerald. I know it works in practice, but does it work in theory?
Well put, Pat. It was I heard that one before. But you see, Susan McKay is doing what would be called in academia qualitative research.
Yeah.
Whereas the thing that they like most is quantitative research. Quantitative research means a whole bunch of numbers and you put them into a computer and you're able to say percentages and all the rest.
Yeah.
But somebody who goes and does carefully modulated interviews with people, gathers information in a qualitative way, that's considered, well, we might accept it, but everybody knows it's low in the pecking order because it's all full of personal bias, etc. Whereas quantitative tells us the truth. My opinion is a load of crap. So I would be worried, frankly, about money going to academics, and it doesn't bode well for the whole shared island money that they start off with, these academics getting money or looking for money. The other thing is, he who pays the piper
calls the tune.
Exactly. Now, if I have been given €100,000 per year by Micheál Martin or by the South government, I don't know if I'm going to be feeling happy if my research reveals ghastly flaws or crimes even associated with the establishment in Dublin.
No.
So if you, in my experience again, when people got grants, the people who give them the grants were very keen to know what kind of report were they going to write, and could they see it before it was published.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Yeah. I have experience of that. So that just puts me very alert.
Well, Jude, it's like always, like those high-profile American murder trials. You can always get an expert, a medical expert, to back your point of view.
Oh yeah. The other thing about academics, besides that, being aware of who's the piper and what they owe to the piper, is that academics are very good at delaying stuff. They could spin around and fiddle about with various stages of an academic investigation. It could go on forever.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's me. Of course, I'm very anti-academic, having been one myself.
That's very good, Dr. Collins.
Well, I'm just going to put it in sharp contrast to something that is developing. I was sent copies of this by a friend of mine, actually, who's a guy he's in the States, but he's from Tyrone. And he sent me a letter to the Taoiseach, was drafted by, I don't know how many, Tyrone Gaels, it was called. And their names were listed. Guys who were involved in the GAA in one form or another, calling on him to establish Citizens' Assembly to explore the possibilities, or what are the prospects for a shared island. What sort of island are we going to have in the future? And they called it. Now, the only thing is, I think that was in the news about 2 or 3 years ago. But more recently, Fermanagh Gaels have done exactly the same thing. And they've called for citizens' assemblies. I think that's the way ahead. Everybody knows it's the way ahead. But has the Southern government even thought about that? Well, they've thought about it, but they've made a point of rolling it in the ball and throwing it in the rubbish bin.
Well, Jude, there's been a couple of citizen assemblies, particularly on same-sex marriage and stuff like that. In fact, that's where it all came out of. Yeah. Like, Jude, if you listen to the naysayers, the right-wing people, who oppose everything, nothing would ever have changed in this country. The government had got the courage, or were given the courage, to go ahead after the Citizens' Assembly. Sort of said, like 65% of the people of Republic of Ireland, are in favour of same-sex marriage. Like, if you want to get married, that's your business. But up until that, the loudest voices were those from the right wing of the Catholic Church, and so on. And so things change. Citizens' Assembly, Jude, if people sit down and they work out a way forward and make what would you say, give advice to the state, like the powers that be would be well advised to listen.
I never heard of citizens' assemblies until relatively recently. I mean, with the ones that are set up in the South, but they do sound a very intriguing notion, where it's a very carefully selected representative of the society in general. It's bloody marvelous.
I think it's marvelous too, Jude, because of the past, there's a candidate standing in Dublin Bay South. He's the Fine Gael candidate. Both his mother and father are Supreme Court judges. And his grandmother and grandfather are Supreme Court judges. Yeah. And you sort of go, like, talk about fishing in the same pool,
Yeah, you're right. But then again, he is going to be representing the cream of the country, which is mainly well-heeled.
But Fine Gael and all these, and Fianna Fáil were basically the party of the people. They're the party of the same people.
They didn't say what people. They said very rich people. But you're right about that guy, who is, he has no experience as far as I know.
I can't remember his name at the minute, but
Gagan, is it?
Gagan.
I've forgotten his first name, but anyway.
I can't remember his first name.
He has no qualifications, but he was on. Did you see that debate on Sunday on Sunday Politics and RTE.
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't.
The Weekend Politics.
No, I've actually recorded it, but I haven't watched it yet.
I mean, it's. I don't think your life will be any more impoverished if you don't actually do it.
Yeah.
But they had all the candidates in, and he's a smooth little performer, you know. Even though he was the only one, actually, all the others were women, and I was struck by that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, he's going to win it. He's going to.
Yeah, well, he's the winner. Well, he should win it because it's the richest constituency in Ireland.
And at the same time, there's pockets of really deprived
poverty, and disadvantage.
Anyway, okay.
Right.
What next? Oh yes, this corporation tax, which is a 12.5%, as you know.
12.5% in the south.
Has been forever, and is very often cited when people say foreign direct investment. Why do they come? That's one of the reasons they come, is foreign direct investment, because 12.5% corporation tax. And then they get here, and of course they don't have to pay any tax at all.
No, they don't even pay the 12.5%.
It looks like there's going to be a global agreement that there's a minimum rate going to be set, because I think people like Biden are intent on I won't say putting manners on, but certainly
the
putting
big corporations
on these vast companies like Apple and so on. Now, I have nothing against Apple. I know nearly all the technology that I use is Apple, and I think it's really good. But that doesn't mean that they're a moral company. So they're going to set it at 15%, and I think that's smart, because if all countries set it at the same level, then the Apple or whoever can't say, "Oh, we'll go somewhere else where we're getting a better rate." No, you're not. You're not going anywhere else. You're going to get better rate, because it's the same everywhere. Now, I think that's fantastic. I also know that the south of Ireland has hung back on that. They haven't signed up to it because they presumably think that maybe people would leave. But where will they go? If you have consistency among countries, they've nowhere to go. And Apple has a lot of. I mean, when you're established somewhere, it is, even for a big company, it's a pin in the bum to haul up stakes and head up.
Jude, what people like Microsoft, Hewlett and Packard, Apple are really ground into the what would you say, the furniture or the infrastructure of this country, and getting taken up in the state. All right, the state. All right. Jesus,
just want to give you straight.
Yeah, it's all right.
You're talking about the province next. You're talking about the bloody province next.
Yes, I know that. All right, the 26 counties.
Free state.
Anyway, they are not going to up in the morning. But Jude, I know the point, but I agree with you totally. What has been happening now is Microsoft and Apple and all the rest of them, all the big guys, corporations, literally making billions. Amazon haven't paid tax here. They just play one game off, one country off against another, or one state off against another, and avoid tax. Double Irish, moving it to Liechtenstein, having offshore accounts here. Dude, if there's 15% tax across the globe, they can't play that one anymore, and they'll have to pay their right share of tax. Now, I accept for the Republic of Ireland, it could create certain difficulty. But Jude, you know, someone in the greater good, there's something seriously wrong with massively rich corporations bringing in shyster lawyers to get round rules and regulations that the ordinary people pay. And Jude, there's something seriously immoral, and sending out a message that almost, immorality pays.
Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, Jude, I think it's a bad thing to teach young people. It's a bad thing for society, because Jude, if you're a young fella and you see the what do you call it, the local crime lord driving around and his big BMW and his gold chains and his Rolex watch. Now, if you're saying there's no rules for him, and well, I may as well become like him. Well, if countries are doing the same, sending the same sort of a code, you sort of say, right, what is the sort of the moral sort of principle we operate in society?
Yeah, well, there's moral principles, Pat, but there's also, of course, realpolitik. And
absolutely.
They say that there's some of these companies, if they were to leave, that you'd have 5,000 jobs would just go out the window, and maybe 15,000 jobs indirectly, but 5,000 directly linked with these companies. So that's the thing, of course, that they.
But Jude, if everybody's going to be charging 15%, what's the point, and where are they going to go? Secondly, the Republic of Ireland, the state, within the EU. It's part of the 27. It's a market for 500 million people. The culture is very much pro-American in the sense we speak English. We like the Americans. The Americans seem to like us. They're happy here. It's a stable society. The climate actually, even believe it or not, Jude, is conducive to the computer industry. Apparently, if they had to move to Spain, the heat there would absolutely destroy a lot of their stuff. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, I do know that whenever any of these companies come in the north, for example, not too many have come, but those that come, they're forever saying, they ask, why did you choose the north, or Northern Ireland? And they'll say, oh, it's a really highly skilled workforce.
Yeah.
And there's such a positive attitude, and we really like the people here. And I take that with a pinch of salt.
But the thing about it, Jude, is we have a lot of our kids now. Do you know, when I was young, the number of people who went to third level education in the Republic was very, very low. These days, it's one of the highest in Europe, and there is a very well educated. Jude, if you're, can't speak for the North, but if you're well enough motivated as a 17 or 18-year-old to get 6 honours in your leaving cert or 4 honours to get into university, there's a fair chance you will also turn out to be a very good employee.
Well, that leads us to our final item, because in a way it's a question I would pose is, what should you have on the curriculum? You're saying that these people are, educated to third level or to whatever. The question is, what are they being taught? And I raised that question because, as you know, I sent you a couple of pictures from a display of sort of modern art, I suppose. I knew nothing about it. It was a guy called Gormley from Omagh, who I gather is my own hometown. I don't know him. I was well out of Omagh before he was a twinkle in his father's eye, I'm sure. But he has is an art dealer, I think, and he has a shop on Lisburn Road in Belfast and another shop in the centre of Dublin. But he has this big display of artists, Irish and Italian and Spanish and God knows what, all around the grounds of the Culloden Hotel, which is a huge grounds. Yeah. And it's modern, as you know. Like one of the ones I think I sent you was a huge, big sort of plastic heart. And there was bits, you could see it was bits of it were sort of stitched up. I think the title was Broken Heart, There's another one, I don't think I sent you this one. It shows you a guy and a girl he's holding the girl's hand and he's going ahead of her, and she's going up a sort of a circular staircase, and the moon is there and he's putting his hand up to it. You didn't send that one? No. It's called Reaching for the Moon. And there's another one of a figure leaning right back. Amazing. You hardly recognize it's human, and then you see it is human, and it was called Bending Over Backwards. But you saw the kind of thing. I thought it had a nice note because it was very modern. I'd never seen anything like this. A big one of a dog, for example, sniffing the glass. Just everything about it was just like somehow a dog might do. I liked it because modern art worries people, worries me too. And I know people who, when they go into an art gallery and there's some modern piece there, they get quite angry. I don't want to name names, but there was an in-law of mine who, when he was in Winnipeg, we were there, we went into the art gallery there, and there was a modern piece which consisted of a box and a mechanized boot. And every so often this mechanized boot would raise and kick the box a thump. Jesus, he really got mad. He really got pissed off. He said, what the hell is this? What is that supposed to mean? Now, I think that's a gut reaction many of us have to modern art, because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't to me anyway, Pat. Maybe you're I have a clue when I look at it. And that's sort of irritating. You feel maybe these buggers are playing a joke on us, They're pretending that they're meaning something, and they don't really mean anything, but this conspiracy of the experts. So my final question is this. Should we not, like for art, for example, should we not be teaching art to everybody? Not just the kids who are interested in or are talented. So what things should we be teaching in schools? There
was a friend of mine. He lives up. He's dead now. He was a former priest. And one day We both went to the same school, St. Eunan's in Letterkenny. And one day he turned around to me, I met him one day, and he said, "Hey, Pat, did we get educated at all?" And I said, "What do you mean, Kevin?" He says, "Like, see classical music. Do you know anything about it?" "Nah, I knew nothing about it." He says, "Painting. No, Rembrandt, Michelangelo, anybody think on." He says, "Do you know anything about it?" I said, "Well, they're in the Sistine Chapel." "No." Do you know? And he went on, like I said, you get the point I'm making. And he says, "Yeah, but Pat, we were taught French and Greek and Latin and mathematics and algebra and all this stuff." And he says, "Stuff that I have never used. Have you ever used?" And I said, "No." But he says, "No, someone." He says, "Maybe if somebody had said, right, see one day a week or one class a week or even a couple of classes here today, listen to this bit of music by Verdi or Chopin or something, and listen to it. And right, here's this painting, the Mona Lisa or Venus de Milo or whatever it is, and here's a wee bit of art appreciation." He says, "Wouldn't the quality of our lives have been so much better?" Now, Jude, he says, "You might hate it, you might love it, but he says it would at least broaden your mind about the beauty of the world." And he says, instead of that, he says, we were learning about X plus Y equals XY squared type thing,
But nobody still questions that, Pat. No, that's still the case. Like, when you were at school, when I was at school, they were teaching X plus Y squared.
Whatever.
And as you say, you've never used it in your life. And it was quite obvious even then that you would never use it. So why are we still doing it when there's things like, if you say, for example, music or art or other things that we could be taught or exposed to at least, and gain some sort of a toehold in them, rather than just being total ignoramuses whenever we're confronted with these kind of things.
Yeah. But then you see, Jude, look at that. I'm going back, and I know I've said this to you before. Look, there's somebody like Tracy Emin, the unmade bed. This was this, and she won the big prize from that. The Tate Gallery, Tate Modern Prize. And you see, it always comes back. A lot of it comes back to what he called Michael Parkinson's famous description. He says, "I don't get this." He says, "My idea of talent, artistic talent, is somebody who can do something like paint or draw or that I can't." He says, "I can do an unmade bed."
Well, I don't know. Because I'm so ignorant, totally Stone Age ignorant of modern art, I hesitate a wee bit to say that Tracy Emin and her unmade bed and the
I'm not having a go. I'm just making a point.
But it's just possible that might be, saying something. Hard to say. I'd be kind of open to it. What I wish is that I had the equipment so that I could look at this unmade bed or any other piece of modern art and then find some sort of connection. The final point of this is I don't know if you've found this, but when I find when tourists go abroad, like say they go to Paris or they go to Milan, go to Rome or wherever, inevitably you find them exploring museums and art galleries.
Yeah.
Now, Irish people, the vast majority of Irish people, don't darken the door of a museum, don't darken the door of an art gallery. Never. But they go on their holidays and say, "Oh, geez, I have to get into this art gallery." What's the point in that? What is this sudden rush of blood, cultural blood to their head, where they suddenly must have this?
I met a friend the last day, and he's telling me he's hoping to go to, I think it's Spain later on this year. And one of the things he said was I think it's Seville. And apparently there's a lovely cathedral there, and he wants to go and see it. Now I was actually quite shocked because he didn't strike me as the type that would be very interested in the architecture of a cathedral. But there you go.
Well, you see, people are open. I think it's because there is this sort of tradition or custom people have when you go to these. You have to go and see, the famous cathedral, or you've got to. You definitely have to go and see this art display because there's one by Picasso in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen these, and it mean nothing to me. It mean absolutely nothing to me.
But maybe it's because, Jude, we haven't been brought up to appreciate it. I was watching Cher was in a film the other night, and I didn't watch it. I got sort of tired and went to my bed, but it was set in an Italian family in New York, and they were playing Italian opera in the background. Yeah. And Jude, it was absolutely beautiful. But now, Jude, I don't know whether that was actually a true representation. But Italian families, they were listening to this beautiful opera music. I don't know if that's culturally part of their upbringing. But it seemed to be part of. Jude, where do we put on Daniel O'Donnell?
Oh, well, I think that's true, but there are exceptions to that. For example, you talk about classical music and how beautiful that piece was. Remember Italia 90?
Yeah, Nessun Dorma.
Yeah, everybody still loves Nessun Dorma. Well, I do anyway. I just think it's a wonderful piece. And I mean, it was so perfect for that tournament.
Yeah.
And if you take, for example, The Godfather, the way they used music there was just so amazing.
Yeah.
So it shows you that even though many of us uneducated in terms of music, classical music that is, there are ways of making it meaningful to you, even without the formal education. I suppose so if we had the formal education, think how even more readily it would take.
So maybe a wee bit of art appreciation and musical appreciation, Jude, surely they could, and I don't know about the Northern, because I didn't go through that system, but I went through the South. Surely it would not be beyond the realms of human genius to come up with at least a class a week called art appreciation, or something along those lines. One day it could be about music, a wee bit of the history of music. It doesn't have to be an academic subject, an exam subject, but it would certainly sort of broaden the lifestyle and the appreciation of what's out there.
Well, my idea in it would be, and you're hinting at it there, but you're suggesting that it's not taught the normal way.
Yeah.
Because much of the normal way is cramming people's heads with stuff.
Yeah.
Sit in the exam.
I used to have to learn off reams of poetry and recite them. Jesus, I don't even remember them now.
The whole idea is to make you love the subject. And as you say, if you did that with art, if you did that with classical music, then that might have some meaning. Why we insist on cramming people's heads full of stuff so they can put it out in an exam, and we're just shoving it into them, and as you say, we never use it again. Anyway, that's my little rant on art.
Right.
The reason I'm struck by it was that display. I would urge anybody that's in a position to see it. I think it's still on display in the Culloden Hotel, which is in Hollywood, and by God, it really bowled me over. It wasn't wildly baffling. That was the lovely part about it. And yet it was stretching your thinking. I never thought walking around the grounds of a place and seeing works of art. Didn't see it. Anyway.
Okay, Dr. Collins.
Okay, ars gratia artis. That's
ars gratia art.
They have that on the front of, what is it? Metro.
MG. I think it's MGM.
MGM. Well, they need their stuff. What was it? Sam Goldwyn said that a verbal agreement wasn't worth the paper it was written
on.
Okay.
What a man.
All right, Pat, thanks very much.